Greg Doucette's harder than last time program, is it the key to building muscle and getting shredded, or is it just overpriced garbage? I've bought the program, so what we're going to do is we're going to break down exactly what's in it and whether it's really worth your time to run it and whether it's worth the money. We're going to be laying out the pros, the cons, who should run it, who should maybe not run it, my experience having ran the program. For those of you who don't know, Greg Doucette is a Canadian bodybuilder and YouTuber. He has a kind of no-nonsense approach, very simplistic, kind of tried and true methods, and he really looks at sustainability. Effort is the kind of main driving factor.
To train hard. If you're natural, train hard. How hard? Harder than last time.
Of progression in a program, and when it comes to nutrition, he's very much about high volume, kind of low calorie foods. He's also very famous for calling out like fake natties, misinformation, and kind of the actions of other people within the kind of YouTube community. So what is actually in the program? In the PDF file, there's actually multiple different programs and routines laid out. They range from casual, which is just obviously a couple of times a week, to a moderate, which is more kind of on the side, about 4 days a week. And then it's also got hardcore, and I don't quite remember, but I think it's 5 or 6 times a week for the hardcore plan. So you can find yourself in the gym on this system, depending on what routine you use, anywhere between 2 and 6 times a week. It also gives options between whether you're training for strength or whether you're training for hypertrophy in each one of these templates. There's also options of whether you want to spend an hour in the gym or an hour and a half. So each one of these different subcategories actually contain around about 4 different routines within them. It contains a long guide on kind of how to get started in the gym, covering like a lot of the background behind the gym, not just randomly giving you exercises. It doesn't just throw you into the deep end of the pool. If you are a beginner, I think if you did read through the kind of foreword by Greg, there's page after page of basically every single question that I think you could think to ask, and it does provide answers. I think it's very much built in mind with scaling. So, you know, kind of starting in at the beginner phase and following along, incrementally increasing, working your way down the plans until kind of getting into a more advanced phase. It covers everything from periodization to diet to cardio recommendations. Let's get to the pros, and there is a lot of them. The first of which I would say is variability. There is a lot of variability in this program. You know, you can really customize any of the exercises based on preference and availability to you. He gives the option, he gives an index of all different exercises that you can just swap out based on preference. So for instance, you know, if you start the program and it has lat pull downs supersetted with some sort of squat patterning, you can choose, you know, what attachment, what kind of grip, you know, you're going to use on the lat pull down. And for instance, if you don't like squats, you can do leg press. If you don't like leg press, you can do hack squats. There's a lot of customization, but he still makes sure that the movements are appropriate to what's being targeted. So you won't go out there and choose, you know, for instance, a leg extension when you should be doing some sort of squat pattern. The next thing is how he approaches progression. I really like it. So what he does is he uses one set is going to be easy, one set is going to kind of be a moderate effort, and the next set is going to be a real hard, high intensity effort. Depending on what programs you'll do, it'll then be an even harder set, you know, like partials and stuff like that. That doesn't really matter, but what we're getting into here is that he keeps a kind of button, you know, a finger on the button when it comes to proximity to failure. And I think with beginners, especially starting out, they don't know where that is. Whereas this system lets someone check in mentally and be like, okay, that was an easy set, that was a hard set, that was a moderate set, that was a hard set. And I think not a lot of programs do that for beginners. But it's also good if you've been training for a while. I think a lot of the times if you're sticking to RPE or percentage-based programs, you can lose your touch when it comes to actually knowing where failure is. and this definitely keeps failure in mind, and it's really the driving factor, effort over time in this program. I think this approach actually really synergizes something, and what that is the kind of ongoing debate between like high volume guys and kind of high intensity guys. I feel like this is real in the middle of this, because I think the successive warm-up sets definitely drive more volume into given muscles, but I think at the same time his kind of reliance on a kind of top set, a high effort working set, also appeals to the kind of Mike Mensah hit type people, because it's very much using one kind of high effort set to drive forward progress. It's also good because he gives kind of rep guidelines, and if you exceed the rep guidelines, essentially it is just an indicator that the weight is supposed to go up. Another thing that I think is really interesting is his simplistic approach to periodization, and it is simply switching between strength phases and hypertrophy phases so that they can kind of feed into each other. And I think a lot of people make periodization a lot harder than it needs to be, and I think his kind of focus on switching up the variations and switching up the modalities of sets and reps is enough for anyone to see progression. It also just has a really good kind of idea around sustainability and expectation. Greg, multiple times throughout the the PDF file, states expectations, gives kind of guidelines of what you can hope to achieve as like the average Joe. And I think a lot of these programs kind of over-promise and under-deliver, and I don't think this does that. I think it is, I think the claims are very much true, and I don't think that he claims anything unrealistic within his book. The cons, so obviously this is the elephant in the room, this one. It's a lot of supersets. Everything is supersetted, which is great for kind of cardiovascular demand and getting a lot of work done in a short period of time. But a lot of people in a commercial gym setup are just not comfortable doing this program in the way that it's intended to be done. This would obviously be a problem if you're someone that's got like a social anxiety, or you're just really self-conscious in the gym, to kind of not be taking up too much space. I suppose the thing is though, if you're in a commercial gym and you're doing this program, there's nothing really to stop you from, one, kind of being smart with your exercise selection, making sure that the things that you choose are close to each other, but also, although it's not written in the program, you probably could just do each thing separately. Just do all your lat pull down work and then do all your quad work and not superset them. You'll not get the kind of cardiovascular benefit, and it will take longer. But I suppose if you just did the 60-minute plan, if you probably did it like that, you could probably do it in 90 minutes and solve that problem. However, I think a lot of people don't want to buy a program and adjust it, so I do totally understand that. I'm torn on this next con, and it lacks individualization. This is something that I'll always kind of throw out whenever I'm reviewing like a mass online program, and it's because it's not been customized for the specific individual. However, with the customizability of choosing whatever exercise you want, you really can kind of construct towards your own weak points and the things that you need to work on. Obviously, with the caveat that you have to be aware of what your weaknesses are. You have to know that, for instance, if you're someone that's got really long legs and you're just doing squats, you choose every single time that there's a squat in the program or a squat type movement, you choose like low bar squats. You're probably going to lose from that because you're going to develop glutes and you're going to develop no quads. So kind of knowing the information to make the choices, you go, maybe my quads are a weakness, so maybe I should focus more on things like hack squats and leg presses and have some squats in there but not make it a main focus. You have to kind of have that knowledge. So if you're kind of someone that's in the kind of intermediate phase, I think it's quite good because you probably will have an idea of what you need to do. But the customizability is definitely there, and I think it has more individualization than any other kind of mass distributed program that I've ever seen. So the next point is, obviously I've got to say it's a little bit on the pricey side. You know, it's a pricier program. I've seen, you know, other people, other YouTubers, kind of similar subscriber count and things like that, sell programs and there be you know, a reduced price. I think it is a very good program. I think you get a lot in it. But obviously as well, if you're not expecting the circuit thing, or, you know, you might feel like you've bought it and then regret it. So you do need to know that. But if the idea of supersets doesn't bother you, I think it could be a good program to buy if you're willing to and can afford to put that level of money down. So now let's get to my personal experience. So back in lockdown, I actually ran this program. I bought it a good few number of years now, and when I used it, it worked. It worked really well actually. Now I was in my own home gym setup in my garden, just using, you know, dumbbells and barbells and just trying to kind of cobble together stuff. But it was good. I did see a lot of results from it. Hard to tell once again, because you can go, you know, how much was that just the disciplined environment, you know, that had nothing else to think about other than training, or how much was it that the program is actually really good. Regardless, I do have to say that there was definitely an appearance difference on me from before I ran it to after I ran it. And although I've said that I'm someone that's like not fussed about the kind of supersetting thing, I think that's me in a very kind of modern day context. Back then, once the gyms opened back up, I stopped running this program because I did kind of run into the thing of, like, you know, people coming up and you know, taking equipment whilst I was on it and things like that. And yeah, I would have the conversation and be like, oh, I'm still using that, but you can work in with me. But it was just like, it was another step. It just something that elongated my workouts. And yeah, I just didn't have the thing to cope with that. I think now I would just bite the bullet, but I think back then I was probably more kind of socially anxious than I thought, and I definitely didn't do as well with the idea of like using multiple bits of equipment at the same time, compared to now. But I've got a lot of love for this program. I think it is one of the most versatile programs that someone can use. I think it has really been written with Gen Pop in mind. And I think it's good if you're someone that's looking to lose weight. I think it's good if you're someone that's looking to build muscle. You know, you could do this program with all sorts of different goals and get a lot out of it, just because it is so kind of well distributed between having a high threshold when it comes to training for strength, having a high threshold when it comes to training for hypertrophy, and also no one's going to run this program and not get fitter. So by the by, I think it's a great great program. It covers like all kind of basic movement patterns that you need to cover, and it's presented in a really interesting way. I don't think I've ever seen anyone design a program in the way that he has. It's good and it's different, and if it appeals to you from kind of what I've said, I think it's something that you should really take on. If, you know, doing circuits in the gym is a nightmare for you, if you're someone that's maybe a beginner and you're not too sure of your form, then maybe you should kind of, you know, look at getting a personal trainer or something before kind of getting into a program like this. And obviously, if you're in a more advanced level, if you're like super advanced, well, even then, I suppose the kind of hardcore programs might kind of cover that. But if you're advanced, I feel like at that point you kind of know your body, you've got an experience in the gym, and you can probably program for yourself. And programming for yourself is always going to be superior when you've got the knowledge to back that up. So it has to get a good rating from me. It is most definitely not D tier. I ran it myself. I had some pretty good results from it. And do you know what? If this gets 50 likes, I'll do a whole G-Shred challenge. I'll do the program for 3 months. I'll do the diet for 3 months. And I'll even get some of the supplements. But you got to, you know, leave the comments, leave the likes, so that I can get that money up to actually be able to do it. I also just have to comment on, because I let it pass very unceremoniously, and that is, you know, getting to 100 subscribers, and then actually very quickly we grew into just above 150. That's absolutely amazing. You know, we've seen kind of unprecedented growth so far. You know, I know it's nothing insane, but it's just crazy to think that 150 people have actually taken the time to watch me ramble on very unceremoniously about random fitness topics. So thank you for letting me ramble to you. Thank you for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. You know, comment down below, have you done the Harder Than Last Time program? What's your thoughts? What your feelings? Would you consider trying it, or does the supersets in the gym kind of put you off a little bit? Please like the video if you like the video. You know, we need to see the G-Shred challenge, and let me know if there's any videos that you would like to see me do in the next coming months. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.